Hello, everyone, and welcome. And thank you so much for joining us. We're here for season 2, episode 3 of The Art of the Mating. And this week, we're talking about making a passion a profession. So I know for so many of you to tune in every week, you might not come from a traditional horse racing background. And what we want to do is spend a evening discussing that it is possible that and very doable if you want to make this a career and follow this as a journey for you, that is very much something that you could succeed at doing. And who better to talk about it than our panel this evening. We have all the way from North Dakota. Annise, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Annise Montplaisir, and I'm a recent Golf and Flying Start graduate. I graduated in 2020. I'm originally, as Jack mentioned, from Fargo, North Dakota. So I came from a non-racing background, but we had a very small racetrack in the city where I grew up. And I actually watched a horse racing movie, which is how I became interested in the sport. And Flying Start was one of the earliest educational programs that I was introduced to in terms of the industry and how I could actually be involved. So a lot of my internships and travels along the way were really driven by wanting to get into Flying Start, and partially was because I didn't know about any other programs. And so I eventually, after graduating from North Dakota State University, I did not study equine either. I studied management communication and Spanish. Moved down to Lexington, Kentucky to gain internship experience and be even more immersed in the thoroughbred industry. And now I'm working in it full time in an education role as equine education coordinator for the Kentucky Equine Education Project based in Lexington.
Brilliant. Okay. And Anya, you do a wonderful job at balancing both being a leading amateur rider and also your professional life working with race. You might talk about your own background and how you got into racing and what was it that prompted it for you as a career that you wanted to follow.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you're definitely complimenting me there, saying I'm balancing it, because I feel like I'm running around like a headless chicken most of the time. I not a very traditional way of getting into it, but I didn't start really riding ponies until I was 13 or 14. I used to swim competitively, and that took up all my time training in the mornings and evenings before and after school. I have come from not really a racing background, but we've always had horses in the family. So there was ponies growing up. I'm one of 4 girls, and all my older sisters, they all rode. One of my sister Kira, she's married to a trainer. She's in the UK, so there is a little bit of racing in the background, but not an awful lot. And I started riding when I was around 14. Then I did a bit of pony racing when I was 17, 16. Got my license when I was 18. And my first ride was in a bumper in Gorham Park, and it was a winner. So after that, then I was hooked. I had planned on doing great things with journalism. That's what I really wanted to do, but that went to the wayside after I the winner. I just wanted to be a jockey.
I wouldn't blame you, Anya. I wouldn't blame you. I back a winner, and I'm bloody over the moon. So riding a winner, I could perfectly understand that.
Well, I saw you the nice winner today, so you must be delighted with that as well.
Ever the professional. I could have cancelled. I could have moved, but my God, no. Such is the dedication, and I knew there was, with so many people all around the world looking forward to this chat. That was very important. But Johnny, look, there's not many more recognizable names than Johnny Murtagh in racing. But, there was a time, Johnny, when you were at home and in Meath, you were starting out your own career, and you were trying to carve out a place for you in the racing landscape. And you just, I know it's a well-trodden path, and you've talked about it before, but for so many people, it's so well worth hammering home. You didn't come from a racing background. You were going to be the heavyweight, well, maybe not the heavyweight champion of the world, but the featherweight champion of the world once upon a time.
Yes, Jack, never rode a horse till I was 15. My father was a builder. My mother was a housewife. I was into all sports, soccer, Gaelic football and boxing. And it was at a boxing tournament one night. My mom sat down watching, and she sat down beside some guy. She didn't random guy, and he just said, geez, your son would be a good jockey. And she said, what do you mean? Oh, he's light, he's good balance, he's brave. And that was the first time, and he gave her the number for race, the apprentice school down in Kildare. So I think my mother thought maybe it's a good way to get rid of him for a couple of weeks in the summer, keep him busy. So she sent me down to race, and you know, you go into race, no experience, sent us out to the national stud to muck out a couple of boxes. But as soon as I got down and I got the atmosphere, and I seen the mares and the foals, it kind of got me straight away. Did well in the 2-week course, and then got accepted back for the 10-month the official course and race. So my cousins had donkeys and ponies down the road from us, but I started coming to race, how to hold the reins, how to do the rising trot. I knew one jockey, which was Lester Pickett, because everybody in the world knew him at the time, but I didn't know background whatsoever. But as soon as I got into it, I was sporty, so as soon as I got into it, I grasped with both hands and never really looked back.
And that's really it, isn't it? Because, you know, that moment where, you know, you're in a ring and a guy looks at you and you think you're going to be, you know, that guy could be a jockey. It's amazing, these moments. You know, Anya talks about her first winner and how that's really where the bug took hold. And what this week is all about, and this chat is, it's part of Together for Racing International's Irish takeover of making people aware of the opportunities and the accessibility that racing offers to so many throughout the world, and in a very international way. And Annise, I'm fascinated about what you're talking about, because you're saying that you watched a movie and it prompted your interest in race, but not only that, but a small race course, I presume in North Dakota, just where racing is probably not the most prominent thing on the sporting landscape, and yet those horses running around in a circle captivated you enough to make that a career and something you wanted to follow.
Absolutely. And I have to thank my mom for a lot, because she was around 12 years old when Secretariat won the Triple Crown, and actually still had newspaper clippings of his Triple Crown victory. And so she was very passionate about driving my interest in horses in general. But after I saw the movie Ruffian when I was around 12, and we had this small racetrack called the North Dakota Horse Park in Fargo, North Dakota. And so the horsemen would be, I mean, this would definitely be a pastime. It wouldn't be a full-time career for them, but they would run on a circuit between North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota. So some of those Midwestern states. The track only had around 4 to 6 days of racing per year, spread out over maybe 3 weeks. But for several years, while I was, you know, unable to drive, that was what I had for racing. That was my connection to racing. And I didn't know a whole lot beyond that, but being able to be immersed in that kind of environment at such a small track like that, I was able to be thrown into all sorts of different projects and roles. I learned how to pony racehorses. So in the US, we use ponies to escort the racehorses to the starting gates. I learned how to gallop. I actually started out with interest in being a jockey, and then went to the journalism side of things, and now I'm on the education side. And I think that when you have people who are supportive around you, it makes it easier to take those next steps and become more involved and more involved. But it really does take kind of getting that initial spark or that initial interest. And I think that's where what we're trying to improve to bring more young people in is that we have to make sure that we're exposing kids to it, because once they're exposed, it's easy to keep immersing yourself and getting more involved.
And Anya, you every day in race are kind of molding the next generation of Johnny Murtagh. You know, this is the place that molded Johnny, to put him on the path to becoming champion jockey. But when you see kids arrive and they're getting involved in such a, you know, a new world, what are the kind of traits you see in people that really, really thrive and become successful jockeys in your time in race, and kind of, you know, what is that kind of secret sauce that you've kind of discovered over the years?
Oh goodness, secret sauce, I don't know. I've only been in race for 2 years now, but from the last 2 years, you can pick them out. You can pick the good kids out straight away. Nearly, they're the ones that are down in the gym every evening working hard. They're the ones that are paying attention, working hard in the barn. You're not having to chase them to keep their boxes clean. You're not having to chase them to see that their horses are brushed over after they've ridden out. They in the spare time in the afternoons, they're not sitting in front of the TV. They're either, if they are, they're watching racing, and if not, they're down in the gym, they're working hard. They're always asking questions. The riding part of it is only so much. It's their attitude and their willingness and their, you know, their drive and passion for it. I think that's how you can pick out the really good ones, the ones that will succeed.
And Johnny, you know, that's really interesting hearing the attitude, because I was really struck listening to your jockeys after all those winners last year, and every time they come back, and they were rooting for each other. There wasn't that rivalry. They wanted the team to do well, and it was that team ethos. Is that really something you really try and foster? And in identifying opportunities for your pilots, is it very important for you to give a cross section of them experience and indeed winners as he delivered last year?
Yeah, no, it is. It's very much about the team, Jack, because, you know, it's hard work at the moment. You know, we have 70 horses and they're all unfit at the moment, so there's no days off riding the horses. So that 70 horses have to be ridden out. So they're long mornings, and it's slow. There's no horses galloping at the moment. We have a couple maybe going a little bit quicker, but it's, you know, trotting and hacking and.
You told me all our horses are flying. I don't know what you're saying. Surely you're lying. They're catching.
Flying at a trot at the moment, Jack. Flying at the trot. No, but this time of year, it's all about getting the groundwork in, and it is hard work. So it's very important to have a good atmosphere around the place. I like that anyway. I'm a positive person, so I like to, you know, it starts at the top, it emanates down through them. You know, I try not to roar and shout at them as that much, although I do every now and again. But no, I have a lot of young people working for me. And I remember when I was a young person myself, the things that made me click, you know, you're going down to ride work, make sure everything is done perfectly, listen to the boss, get the boss's instructions. And with the great trainers I have had ridden for, you get more instructions in the morning riding work than you would in race day. Because this is what they want. They have the horse prepared for this. So it's a build up gradually to the big day. But I've got a lot of young people here. I've got a young guy actually from Limerick at the moment, Wesley Joyce. He's just after coming up. He done the one of the programs down there in the Moyross. You know, they have programs now in these places in Moyross. You know, his one of his the girls rang me the other day and asked me how was he getting on, you know, from the Moyross horse program. And I says he's doing really well. He got signed on the other day, so we're hoping to get him up and running with his first ride in the next couple of weeks. But you know, he reminded me a bit of myself. Not all like Anya down there listening and paying attention and keeping the boxes. You have to have that little bit of madness. You know, a little bit of madness, a little bit of flair, a little bit of hair, you know, win at all costs kind of attitude.
Johnny, they're trying to keep the kids in race quiet and you're telling them they need some madness. No.
You do.
Just drive Anya insane. That's the kind of goal, you know.
You do. Listen, you do need to keep that spirit within them, because that's what you need. Racing is brilliant game. I went to race, there was 26 of us. We weren't always all going to be jockeys. I think Joe Fanning is the only jockey still riding. Lots of lads rode winners. Robbie Hennessy, his dad owned that good horse that won the champion horse. Yeah, he trained horses himself. Paul Keating, who is now an instructor down in race. But you can go anywhere in the world and you're Irish and you work with horses. Anywhere you will get a job, because that's what people think of us. The Irish have a great empathy with horses. They know how to handle them. And we have that. But I'm all for what you say. We shouldn't just think, oh, I was born and bred into it. It's bred into me. It's open for anybody. All shapes, all sizes. There's loads of jobs out there. very good jobs, not just in Ireland, but worldwide.
I might take you up on that whole size thing that I might start writing out for you then, Johnny, because I've been waiting for the call for a long time. So thanks.
I mean, mucking out jobs as well as writing out jobs, Jack.
But Johnny, what I'm fascinated with, you say you're a positive person, right? And you want to be a positive person. You need to be a positive person with your team. But actually, that's difficult in horse racing because, as we all know, you lose more than you win, and you make mistakes more than you make that winning play. Like, how do you give feedback then? How do you kind of think, I'm going to stay positive, I'm going to stay this positive person, but I also need my jockeys and my employees to kind of grow as individuals and to improve. So how do you impart that kind of wisdom to them?
Well, I started off, I was giving them too much instructions, and I'm hard on my jockeys. Then I was giving them no instructions. So now I'm just watching the videos with them and just trying to say, I think you maybe should have done this at this stage, or done that at that stage. But the thing about it is, Jack, we're all going to make mistakes. I'm only starting out, you know, I'm only learning my trade now. I'm only starting out. So even when something does happen, you know, there's a positive in it. You just have to zone in on the positives, and it cannot be ruled by fear. It has to be, you know, it will last for so long. The fear factor will last for so long, but you have to, you know, I would rather give them a slap on the back rather than a kick up the backside.
Yeah, and that's right. And Annise, when you were kind of thinking, you know, and hearing Johnny's words, and you know, that kind of bringing the positivity which you have, and I know you have, knowing you have, and you bringing people into your current venture with Amplify Horse Racing, is the message, because sometimes we can get a bit self-involved in racing and we can get negative. Is that something you're trying to do?
One of the things that because that is sort of, I don't want to generalize, but we do tend to focus in on the issues and the things that we want to fix and change about the industry. And I try to be really careful when I talk to new, young, enthusiastic people who are interested in getting into the industry to be honest and transparent about things that are happening, things that we maybe want to change, but also definitely focus very strongly on the positive things that we're doing really well. And that's one of the amazing things about Together for Racing International that it has done, is that we're shining a light on all of these positive initiatives that we have already taking place and changing lives in all of the countries that are currently involved. And these are things that, you know, even industry stakeholders might not even be entirely aware of. You know, there are training programs and tour initiatives and racetrack days and connections to different charities that influence, or that racing is having a positive influence on and touching and raising money for. And so I do my best to, you know, try and, if I'm in a conversation with other people where we might have the ability to influence someone and get them into racing, you know, to make sure to put a positive spin on whatever issues we're talking about, and also focus on the positive change that is being made as well. So that's my thing.
No, absolutely. And what I'm really interested to hear with Anya is, you know, something I think it's wonderful, that the strides we made with women riders and everything else in Irish racing, you know, to people like Rachel Blackmore, to people like Anya, people like Jodie Townsend tonight, this afternoon. But one thing I'm frustrated a little bit of late is when I look at the statistics of my syndicates, they are quite frequently 80% men. And I suppose in terms of promoting the sport and promoting participation in ownership, I know that's kind of something different to what you're normally involved in, Anya. But when you talk to your friends and getting them excited about racing, what do you think the road to do that is?
Oh goodness, Jack. I just, any of my friends that haven't had an interest in racing, they love the glamour of it. They love the dressing up and the day out. And it's only when I get them out and get them racing and they're at the race course and they get up close and they actually see the action, that they're like, oh yeah, there's more to it than just the glamour and getting dressed up. They really enjoy it. They enjoy the sport. They enjoy it's good crack. That's what it, you know, it's all a bit of fun. Trying to get them to buy a horse.
I'm not trying to sell here. I'm not trying to sell here, but I'm always
You're looking for syndicate members.
No, not at all. But I'm always fascinated by it though, because when I look at the sales come true, I'm like, you know, it doesn't really make sense to me. You know what I mean? I kind of go, this is always a bit odd, you know, and I've never really solved the puzzle of it. And it's something I'd like to be better at. And I talked to my girlfriend, I talked to my sisters about it, because I just don't have the answer, you know. And it's but because for me, you know, you can have participation in so many ways, but an enthusiastic race goer, you'd like to think if they want to be involved in it, they might take shares in syndicate, or maybe they you know, they'll do that kind of next step. And even if you look at like things like members of race courses, and you know, people, when you go into a bookie shop and you're watching a race, now, you know, I'm not saying we should all be out backing horses the whole time, but at the same time, it does feel to me sometimes too male orientated, and that we need to find new ways and new avenues to bring more female participation into sport.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you probably go back and look at the statistics from maybe 15 years ago, I'm sure it is improving. There's definitely more girls in the weigh room. As you said, Rachel, Katie, Nina for female riders, Holly Doyle in England, Bridget Andrews, Bryony Frost, they're all doing amazing things. And there was plenty of women before them that did the same. But there's definitely, I see it when I'm doing junior academies, there's always more girls, the young girls that sign up to do the days than there are boys. So I often, that's something that I think about as well, where are we losing them from that young age to when they get older? Is there what's catching their attention over a race, and that we're not keeping them in the industry, keeping them climbing up through the ranks? It's probably not something we're going to solve here this evening, but it's definitely food for thought, and something that we can continue to work at anyway.
And Johnny, when I think about you and I think about your work that yourself and Orla do, I think of the lip sync battle in Kildare town, which, you know, you had a very how would I say, understated role in as master of ceremonies. When you were participating in that and kind of engaging with the local community, is that something very valuable to you and kind of what you want to bring to horse racing?
Yeah, we're all in this, our own little bubble, Jack. We think like everybody knows about racing. I go to some of those sports events or some of those dinners, and you sit round the table and you kind of stick your chest out and, you know, hi, I'm Johnny Murtagh, and what do you do? You know, so not everybody knows flat racing or racing in general. So we do have to make a huge effort. You know, we have to really make a huge effort to promote it whenever we can, and promote it in a good light. And that's it, you know. And as I said, I moved from Meath down to Kildare when I was 15. So, you know, I've lived here now in Kildare more than I have down in Meath. So that is my community, and I think it's
so you're officially coming out as a Kildare fan. Is that what you're here to?
Well, I'm not sure about that. My daughters do play for Kildare, so I do have to wear the white jersey when the ladies are playing. But I do feel as I have a duty. Racing has been very, very good to me. It's given me a great career. It's given me a good life. And I do feel you have to make an effort. We can sit back and say, oh, it's not my department, I don't have to do that, or I shouldn't have to do that. I'm doing enough, sure, I'm training horses or I'm riding horses. When you have a voice, you should stand up and be counted and promoted, as you know, when you can and as often as you can. And it's like everything, if you keep saying something is great long enough, the rest of them will start believing you, whether to do or not. If you keep saying and keep harping on about it, they will believe you. And I believe we have a great sport, and I believe that there's loads of opportunities, not just as a jockey for people, but it's hard work. You don't get any weekends off. And, you know, I think you have the word up there on the screen, passion. You have to have a passion for it. I listened the other day about passion. A fella said, it's okay me talking about passion now. I have a passion now for it. But when I went to race first, did I have a passion for it? I didn't even know where I was going. Didn't know what was in front of me.
Yeah.
But the more you get into it, the more you start enjoying it, when you become champion jockey, it becomes your passion, and it is mine, and I'm passionate about it. And as I said, I think it's my responsibility to shed the light and shed the word in good. And that's why sometimes you get a bit let down when you read papers or see articles. You know, we need
You
to
feel that ownership, Johnny, don't you? And you feel you're kind of let down by the wider team.
I feel that they zone in on those stories to sell papers rather than there's loads of brilliant stories.
Yeah.
I'll give you one the other day about that young lad coming from my Ross. Now he's going to ride in a race next week. You know, I've got a young lad then from Mauritius. He's over here. His dad is over here for 10 years. He's going to sign on to me next week. It's another great story. There's lads out there in the yard looking after horses to come in 15 minutes early to fix the rugs or put different things on. You know, they have a bond with horses. They are the great stories, but nobody looks into them. They're lazy. They just, they want the big, sad, shitty story. They don't care about these other good, positive ones that they should be zoning in on. Every horse I have out there, there's a story involved in it. Whether when he came into the yard first, he threw the young one off and he galloped on down the road, or, you know, some of them come in, they're so quiet. Oh, this is a real good horse, Johnny. I just say, are you telling me he's a real good horse because he's a real good ride? Or are you telling me he's a real good horse because he's a real good horse? So there's loads and loads of stories, and they're the ones we need to put out rather than the few cases that make headline news.
No, I absolutely agree, Johnny. And Annise, when you look through we've got lots of questions coming in from various people all around the world. If you click into the Q&A questions there, is there any question that jumped out to you that you'd like to take and maybe answer?
I wanted to add to a couple things that Anya and Johnny mentioned. So when you're talking about getting women more into the industry and what are some different ways to attract them and, you know, I guess promote that continued involvement. And I actually had an interesting conversation with a friend the other day who came from a non-industry background. She now works, she's very involved in the industry and she's very good at what she does and very intelligent, but she was talking about how she wanted to get into maybe pin hooking a couple horses, but she just didn't feel like she knew enough yet. And she's already dedicated herself to years of study of the industry. And I think that it's always important to be conscious of what we do know and seeking out more information and learning experiences and never stopping to learn. But at the same time, I do think, and again, this is another generalization, that men are more eager to just jump into things and take a little bit more risk, whereas women might need that extra bit of information or feeling of security or preparedness before they do it. And I know, again, don't quote me word for word, but there's a study out there that has to do with women applying for jobs, whereas they'll only apply if they feel they're almost 100% qualified for the job, whereas men will do it if they're maybe 40 to 60% qualified, something along those lines. And so I think that translates into racing as well. And then the other point was just in terms of, you know, never assuming somebody else's level of knowledge of the sport, and just being very conscious of the way we talk about it with other people and the way we use racing jargon, because I think that in itself feels very exclusive if we're having a conversation about something very racing specific. You know, even something as simple as, you know, that this is going to be a very silly example, but breaking from the starting gates. You know, somebody might wonder, well, breaking, like what's breaking? You know, there might even be a slightly more descriptive way of describing things that we think of as very simple. And I think that assessing that language even has a lot of, like, language in itself ties into accessibility and being able to get into the sport.
Sorry, I've muted myself. I mute everyone else and then
Okay.
I muted. Anya, I'm really interested to hear from you because I rang Mary Kilduff, I know a good friend of yours, during the week to talk about your schedule, just so I could get my head around it. And I found myself exhausted by the end of that conversation with Mary. But I think that's very good, just for you to explain to everyone all the various different things you do in a week. You know, just because I know you work in race, I know you're a very, very accomplished rider, but maybe just talk about what an average week is for you, just to give people the sense of the different things you can do and the variety of profession in racing you can give.
Yeah, of course. I think if I was more accomplished, Jack, I wouldn't be running around like a mad thing every week going from job to job. But I ride out in Poddy Roaches every day bar Friday. I ride out there till 9 and then I go into race. I'm there from 9 to 5, Monday to Thursday. Then on a Friday, I go down to Enda Bulgers in Limerick and I ride out in Enda's on a Friday. I'll come back up and try and maybe ride a bit of work on the Curragh. Usually Enda would bring horses to Curragh on a Friday. So I'll drive down to Limerick, ride out 2 or 3 lots, then come up and ride a lot up Enda's. I ride work for Andrew Canaran's, Boots Madden, Enda Poddy. I think I'm leaving someone out. I think that's it. And then so I'm on the Curragh, then I'm racing when at the weekends or during the week. But if I'm racing midweek, I have to work my hours back. So sometimes I could be working until 7 o'clock in the evenings or 8 o'clock. So it can be a bit hectic. But if I was a better rider, I wouldn't probably need my job and race. But I was in England for 2 years. I came back from the UK and I started riding out in poddies in the mornings, and the job and race came up, and I just decided, well, I'll apply for it and see how it goes. And I got the job, and while I was there, everything was going great. And I started to probably get more rides than I was ever getting. So I just got busier and busier. And luckily in race, they're very good. They allow me to juggle both. So at the moment, I'm getting to do both, and I absolutely love it. If I was told I had to give up racing for my office job, as I call it, in the morning, I think I'd struggle big time. I'd have to sacrifice race before I'd sacrifice the race, and I'm afraid.
I know, no, I can appreciate that. But what, Johnny, you did make the switch. You were riding at the peak of your powers, and you said, no, I'm going to go train racehorses. And of course, you've done so successfully. But you might talk about that transition and making that change.
Yeah, I was going really well in 13. I think I had one of my best years, champion jockey in Ascot. I was probably training, Tommy Cameron had my yard here, so I was helping Tommy. We were running the show here for probably a year and a half before that. So I had a little bit of experience. I wanted to just see what the training side of it was like, I liked it from the word go. We had a great day when...
You can admit it. You can admit you just thought you could train better than all the lads you rode for. It's okay, Johnny. You're amongst friends.
Well,
here,
I used to always... Ger Lyons is still slagging me, because I used to drive Ger Lyons and Eddie Lynham absolutely crackers, because I'd be saying, oh, do this and don't do that. And you guys have it easy. This training's an easy lark. So, but no, I decided, I suppose I got up one February and I was probably 60 kilos. And I needed to be 55 kilos. So I knew what I had to do for the next 6 to 8 weeks to get ready for the flat season. And by that time, I was after getting a few more horses. So we probably had 30, 35 horses at this stage. And I just knew what was involved to get ready, to get myself ready for the flat season to be a jockey. And it was either going to go one way or the other. I was either going to be 100% into the riding or 100% into the training. And I had a great career. I never broke a bone. I never took too many falls. I had a wonderful career as a jockey, and I just thought it was the natural progression to change over. Nothing changes much. I get up early in the morning. I work hard. I have lunch around 1 o'clock. Go back evening stables at 3:30. And I really love being a trainer. I love the team around me. I love, being part of the team. And now that I'm eating a bit more, I'm a bit more calmer. My tolerance level's a little bit better, because if you're trying to walk around 55, 56 kilos every day. There's a lot of sacrifices go with that. And it's probably the one thing, when people ask me, what do you miss? Or, what's the best thing of being retired jockey? And I'd say, I can eat now, breakfast, dinner, tea. I can have a normal meal. I can sit down with my family and I can have dinner, which wasn't the case. And I don't miss that, because a lot of people see the great days and the Saturdays and the Sundays at the Curragh and Ascot, but there's a lot of hard work. Well, there was a lot of hard work for me going in behind the scenes to maintain that discipline. I don't miss that, and I enjoy being around my family a lot more. I think my two eldest children didn't have me around as much as the next three, but I'm not sure if that's good for them or not. But I do enjoy that part of it, Jack.
No, absolutely. I can totally understand that. But Annise, when you listen to Johnny and the sacrifices he's made, and Anya's and her incredible week that she goes through every week, and someone emails you or sends you a message on Twitter and they're saying, I want to get involved in this and I want to be part of this sport, what is the advice you ordinarily give out?
I think the first thing that I try to advise people is to find a mentor. I think that it's really valuable to have somebody guiding you along, to have someone that you can look up to be able to study someone's own path into the horse racing industry. And I think that a person ends up developing multiple mentors as you go along, but it really takes just one person to really, I guess, instigate you to keep learning more. And I think that it's valuable to have someone who will entrust you with projects that are maybe a little bit over your head right from the very beginning. So for example, one of my first industry mentors was the general manager of the small track that I got started at. And I was 19 years old, and he needed a director of communications. And I had a passion for writing. I loved talking to people, and he just threw me right into the job and made me learn, but also was very supportive of, he understood where I was at knowledge wise. He knew that I was learning and that I wasn't going to do everything perfectly. But because I felt like he had that level of trust in me and also expected me to keep improving, that kept pushing me along and really propelled my career forward. So definitely, if you can find a mentor and reach out to people, send emails. Don't be afraid to send someone an email and set up an initial, hi, would you be willing to take a few minutes of your time to be on a Zoom call with me or a phone call for me to ask you about my experiences thus far, or to tell me about your experiences. I had a young lady who arranged a meeting with me a few weeks ago, and she said, and she's a college student studying equine, and she's trying to set up one meeting a week with an industry professional from various sectors of the thoroughbred industry. And again, just came across racing by chance and is trying so hard to just reach out and make those connections, build relationships, and grow her network. Because ultimately, as we all know, it's a very small world. Everyone is very intricately connected in the industry. And the more you can start finding mentors, working your way up and developing your network, the easier it's going to be to progress.
No, absolutely. And I would echo that. And I would also say that, part of this week and Together for Racing International is providing a resource with that people can reach out to and say, look, this is something I want to get involved in, be part of, and, make my passion a profession. But Johnny, if I was to ask you and for your advice, you've talked about guys from Mauritius coming from you, guys from Moy Ross. I don't know if you have an exclusive policy of only places beginning with the letter M, but maybe, that came from Mead and that was kind of an internal bias. But what advice would you be given to people and the young people in the industry that wanted to be part of it?
just picking on what Annise said, there's no right way. People, sometimes you question yourself. There's no right way in this, in racing, you know, because you're dealing with a horse. You have to be brave, take a few chances. You might get it wrong a couple of times. You know, that girl going pin hooking. I know going to the sales myself, the first few times I went there, you're very nervous. Oh, you know, but you have to go with your gut. You have to go with your gut feeling. And as you say, get as much information as you can, but at the end of the day, you have to go with your gut feeling, be brave, and you know, that's what I say to them, you know, get stuck in. It's tough work. It's a great game. Get stuck in there, ask loads of questions. That's one thing John Ox always said to me. I said to him, when did you know I was good, or when did you think I was any good? And he says, you always were asking questions. You know, what's that for? How will I do this? How can I improve? And it's for a trainer now, I'm on the opposite side. When one of my young lads keep on like that, I'm going in the evenings thinking, Jesus, he's a pain in the backside, but he's bloody interested. You know, sometimes the young people are a bit shy, they don't want to approach you. And you think, sure, he has no interest, that fella. You know, he is back to what Anya said, you know, they're always asking questions. They always want to get better. Like, I want to get better. I'm always asking Willie Mullins, how do I prepare those horses for the big weekend in Leopardstown, Jack?
Yeah, well, you just get me to buy them.
Listen, I hope you have bought a few, so we're under the pump now. Well, that's what I do. I don't care who I ask. I don't really care about their response. If they tell you to F off and mind your own business, that's their problem. But, you know, that's what this game is about. Asking questions, find out as much information as you can, but be brave yourself, back your own judgment. And like, I use always, how do I train? There's no right way to train. Willie Mullins canters on his gallop. Dermot Well goes up the old Vic. The Australian guys go round the hard. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. So we can't lose.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I hope, Johnny, I'm going to improve because I've been asking questions all night. So that's going to be my route to success. But Anya, the same question to you and your advice of what you would give to people that when they're thinking about it, when you reflect back on that first winner on your first ride to today, what is the kind of pearls of wisdom you'd have?
I would definitely, just repeating what Johnny said, ask loads of questions, have a mentor, like Annise said, is so important to have someone to ask the questions to. Places like race are also great. Johnny touched on Wesley there. Wesley came through the trainee jockey course and he came up through the paths in race. He was in junior academy, then in trainee jockey. So there's so much great parts of our industry that are available to people that don't have that mother or father or brother or sister in the industry that will give them that, maybe that little leg up that they need. Now, I don't know, is there any such thing as a leg up in racing, because it's a tough job for everyone, no matter who you are. But if you need a little bit of a helping hand, there's places like race, and trainers love to, I'm sure Johnny will agree with me, they love to have people come in and say, oh, can I have a job? I'll muck out there and try and progress their way up to riding out, or doing even coming in at the weekends and as a weekend job, or doing something like that. And that's a way of getting into it.
No, so, absolutely. So mail your trainer, ask questions, find a mentor. We're hearing lots of great advice. I suppose before we go and we wrap up, I want to give everyone the opportunity to ask questions. They're on our Q&A function. We have a few there already. If any of the panelists want to click into them and see one they like and would like to answer, please do. Anything there?
What about that? What about the should girls have an allowance? I know I would think like
now, Johnny. What
I would say Rachel Blackmore or Holly Doyle or any of the girls riding. We just look at them really as jockeys. We keep saying a lady rider. We probably shouldn't say that anymore. We just should say a rider, because that's in racing what we think of them. But maybe for like I see the young apprentice jockeys, lads. They ride a few winners, they have a claim, they lose their claim. That's a very tough period there when they lose their claim. Should those girls not maybe have a claim for a little bit longer, just to give them that helping hand along. Maybe I'm contradicting what I'm saying, but I know the girls themselves, when you said it, no, we want to compete on a level base. But I think it's going to change in the next 10 to 15 years with all the girls coming in. They're gonna take over. But what about that one there? Should they get an allowance for a little bit longer? What do you think, Anya?
I actually think that we're at an advantage when you start out riding, because we've got ladies races. I've started riding for Mr. McManus because I won a ladies race on a filly that hadn't really done that well, and I kept a ride on her, and then he used me in an amateur race and went on. But ladies races are a leg up that I think that lads don't get. We get to ride for trainers that we wouldn't usually ride for. Now look, if I was getting an allowance, if someone was telling me they give me an extra £4, I'd take their hand and all, thanks very much, and off I'd go. I'm not against it in any way, shape or form, but I think we already have an advantage with ladies races. If you said to me about giving someone like Rachel an allowance, that's ridiculous. She's proven she doesn't need one. She didn't need one from a £5 claimer. She didn't need an allowance. But if maybe a system, if it came into play, that they started out with maybe a £10 claim, like as conditionals, like they do on the as conditionals in the UK, something like that, and they progress, they rode winners down through it, that they don't always have it, but they had it for a certain length of time. I get what you're saying, Johnny, about when they lose their claim, that's very hard, but there aren't that many girls that have ridden out their claim. In Ireland especially, there's been a few in England, Bridget Andrews, Lizzie Kelly, Holly, Josie Gordon, they've all ridden out their claim, but they continue to keep the rides that they had. I think it's starting out nearly at the beginning of their careers that they need more of a help than it is towards the latter part of it.
No, I absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense, Anya, and I kind of, it's trying to strike a balance, isn't it? That it kind of achieves all goals. But Annise, I want to give you a chance. Is there anything there that you jumped out at you that you'd like to take on? Just unmute it. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Unmute. There we go. No, I was typing back and forth with Debbie had asked about whether the initiatives that I'm involved in are US based or UK, Ireland based. And, I guess just in terms of like more broadly educational initiatives and going back to Together for Racing International, I want to reinforce the messages that is promoting in terms of connecting with communities, making sure that the thoroughbred industry is connected in the communities where it's closely based to, that we're working to improve educational attainment, that we're continuously trying to not just make sure that opportunities are that we make people aware of opportunities in the workforce, but that we keep trying to be better as an industry to make it the best place to work possible, to make it an enjoyable working experience. And I'm not sure how much the audience is aware of Together for Racing International, but this is an alliance, an international alliance that involves 6 countries. So we have the US, UK, Ireland, France, Australia, and Japan, with ambitions to add more. And they've all come together to assess, what are our existing initiatives where we're reaching those areas, the educational attainment, enhancing our community connections, and also, making people aware of opportunities in the workforce. And I hope that this is going to be a huge movement going forward for the industry, that we keep improving in these areas and making it the best place possible for newcomers to be involved, because there's so many advantages to being part of the thoroughbred industry. You get to travel, you get to meet incredible people, you get to do things that are unimaginable to some people. Like fly on an airplane with a horse or go to one of the biggest days of racing, you know, leading up a horse for a big day at the track, or getting to work around some of these incredible stallions that we have. And I think that making kids aware of those opportunities and getting in their heads from a young age is going to be very valuable to us in the future and future sustainability of the sport.
No, and I think that's a great message, Annise. And I think we might give the final word, because he'll be given out to us if we don't, to Johnny Murtagh. Johnny, when I think about my favorite thing about racing is that I can go racing in Saratoga. I might meet people I know. I can go racing in Tokyo. I might meet people I know. It's a real international, you know, kind of, how would I describe it? But just a kind of, you know, a wonderful kind of mix every day that can take you anywhere, and you never know what is around the corner. And I suppose for me, my question to you is, how much for you has the enjoyment of racing come from the fact that you can go anywhere as Johnny Murtagh and people will recognize you and understand the skill you have as a rider and the professionalism and the dedication that you've put into your craft?
Yeah, listen, Jack, it brought me around the world. As I said, a young guy, never rode a horse till he was 15, came up to the apprentice school, represented Ireland, you know, on all those international jockeys challenges, rode Breeders' Cups, rode in the Melbourne Cup, all around Europe. Yeah, you can go anywhere in the world. I've made some great friends. The world is a small place now. You can hop on a plane. I remember there during my time riding in Ballydoyle, I rode in the Breeders' Cup, I think, on a Saturday, and I was in Melbourne then to ride in the Melbourne Cup on the Tuesday. So you know, that's it's unbelievable stuff. And to meet different people all over the world with the same passion, and you probably think when you're in it, or you're in that, you just take it for granted. It's only now when we're sitting here having a talk together and you remember back the different people, where you met them, the fun you had, what racing has given you. That, as I said earlier in the program, I think it's our responsibility to, you know, to spread the word, to get young people involved, and to tell them how great a industry, a business, a sport, whatever you want to call it, it is. And that's what we should be doing. And I think you're doing a great job with your syndicates racing, with Zoom calls like this. We need more of that. We need more of that out there, Jack.
Okay, well, if we want more of it, you need to tell us what we do next week. You know, all the panelists have given up their time this week because they wanted to engage in horse racing. They wanted to think about horse racing, and they want you to be part of horse racing. So I'm asking you, my one request is you send me a tweet and you let us know what you want to hear about next week, because we will do exactly that. So that's all you have to do. Drop us a tweet, and we'll make sure we try cover that along the way. We're just doing this to give everyone, you know, it's a difficult time for a lot of people all around the world, and we just want to give everyone a distraction and hopefully a bit of fun on their Sunday nights. So I want to thank very much all three of our panelists. Very diverse perspectives, but really interesting ones. And I really appreciate everyone joining us, and hopefully you've enjoyed it too. So until next week, and thank you again to the three guys.
Thank you so much, Jack, and Johnny, and Anya. It was great to connect with you.
See you later, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.